On today's program, we have a sneak peek at 3 of the homes on the Oklahoma Horticultural Society's garden tour for connoisseurs. We'll visit a beautiful English garden, a collection of green rooms, and a tropical oasis. These homes are full of wonderful ideas for your own garden and are just a sample of what you'll see on the tour. And if you're looking for a tasty snack to take with you, Barbara Brown is also here to prepare Edamame Hummus. Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance is provided by TLC, Oklahoma's leading garden center, Southwood Landscape and Nursery, Tulsa's source for great gardens, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing.
Today we'll visit a few of the homes that will be featured on the Oklahoma Horticultural Society's garden tours for connoisseurs. And joining us is Alan Storjahan from the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.
Hi, Kim.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Gardening.
We're sure glad you could come see these wonderful homes. We have 6 homes on the tour this year. It's really going to be a lot of fun. We invite everyone to come check it out.
Now remind us what the proceeds from the tour go towards.
The ticket price goes to help us fund a number of scholarships to Oklahoma State University, Tulsa Community College, and Oklahoma State in Oklahoma City for horticulture students. And it also helps us provide a lot of seminars and workshops for homeowners and hobbyists here in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa.
It helps fund our programs, educational programs for the Society. In addition to a great cause, you get to gather a lot of ideas for your own landscape.
That is true. These homes are wonderful, and I think if you come on the tour you'll find that there's something for everyone. There's small homes with small backyards and landscapes that are well done, and then large acreages. There's water features. There's all kinds of things that people can learn from. Even the urban agriculture that we'll have on this year's tour is pretty substantial.
Excellent. So give us the information. When are we going to have the tour?
The tour is on Saturday, October the 4th. It starts at 9, goes all the way to 4, rain or shine. And folks can come out and get tickets at each home that's on the tour. Go to the Oklahoma Horticultural Society website to get information. And it'll send you to the homes and you can buy tickets that day. Before that day, we have 8 sites in Oklahoma City that you can find tickets at, and they'll be shown here on the screen.
All right, well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to all these fantastic houses. Thank you.
Great to have you. Thanks for having me with you today.
We're at the home of Linda Vodder, and Linda, you have this beautiful Tudor style home, and I really see the architecture reflected in your landscape. I assume that's intentional.
It is very intentional. I'm very design driven, as I love that tension between things that are tightly clipped and then things that are kind of billowy, which is also a trademark of English gardens. I like what I call soft hardscape, the use of gravel and flagstone, natural materials that kind of organically blend in with the different kinds of foliage and textures and shapes and forms. It's all about, to me, shape and form and rhythm and pattern. Everything else in terms of what plants you use and where you decide to place things are secondary.
And that's really the crux of design. Designing for design's sake rather than being a gardener per se, just gardening.
Yeah, and I think most of us, when we first start to garden, what are we drawn to? We're drawn to masses of color. And it seems counterintuitive that that sometimes should be the last element that you take into account, not the first element. And sometimes I think it's difficult for us to practice the discipline that we need to get the bones in place and reflect the architecture of the home and think about how the space will be used. And then the fun stuff, or what most people think of the fun stuff, the color and the flowers and the vegetables, that can kind of come later.
And here you have a really restricted color scheme which works beautifully, the chartreuse and the purple.
Yes, I really love that. You had said earlier, and I completely agree, that plants that are variegated or that are light colored can really illuminate a dark space. And I love chartreuse, and it's probably my favorite color combination. Lavenders, purples, chartreuses, they just really blend beautifully together. And I think I did a lot of traveling when I first started to garden in Europe and in English gardens, and it seemed that this was a very popular color palette, and I fell in love with it and haven't gone back.
Well, let's see how you've used this in the backyard as well.
Happy to show you.
With regards to European design, your knot garden in the back is quintessential European.
Oh, isn't it? I went to Barnsley House, the garden of Rosemary Very in the Cotswolds, and of course hers is far more elaborate than mine and far larger in scale, but nevertheless I came back with that idea, and I don't know if you can tell, but it's two stylized hearts that frame one another with a great focal point in the middle that hosts all different things. Scarecrows, alliums, right now I've just got a simple urn, but it's nice, it gives a nice framework. It always looks good. In the winter, the framework of box always looks good. And then you can play around with vegetables and flowers and ornamentals inside each quadrant. It also keeps you honest. It's very easy to maintain because you can do it a section at a time.
Oh, that's a nice approach to gardening.
Yeah, it really is.
Little easy to manipulate spaces.
Break it up. Save your back and your sanity.
And you have just wonderful transitions throughout from one space to the next.
Thank you.
Here we have a really nice example of that tension you talked about with the clipped boxwoods.
Yeah, it's kind of
wild.
a reflection of English gardening where things that are closer to the house tend to be more manicured and clipped, and the farther away you get from the house, they become a little more wild. And I just love that tension. I love the strong structure and the architecture of a really strong clipped form against things that are blousy and billowy and more romantic. And in seasons when our gardens look less than their best, and in Oklahoma that can be pretty frequently, it really helps to have that structure because it always looks good even if the surrounding flowers aren't quite so presentable.
Well, Linda, your backyard, you know, we're in a small urban lot, but you've done such a beautiful job of creating usable spaces and with their own sort of identity, own little room.
Yes, and I mean, people ask me, well, do you ever sit? And no, I don't sit, but I have to say that this is an extension of our home. It is a very usable space for a variety of different reasons. We entertain a lot, and it has to be very functional and very practical. So consequently, you can kind of get a twofer by blending that practicality of, for example, the flagstone in the turf with that kind of English aesthetic of the beautiful organic natural quality of the stepping stones and the flagstones against the vibrant green of the grass.
Every detail here is done just beautifully. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Well, thank you for coming.
Joining us is Martha Berger, and Martha, you have just an adorable house. I absolutely love it, and the unique character of the chimney with its curves, and I can see that character reflected here in your landscape as well.
Well, thank you very much. I love the word adorable because, you know, when I think about this, I think of Grandma's garden, and I think Grandma would appreciate that word as well. But cozy with just a really warm and inviting place is sort of the spirit of what really drew me to this garden.
Mm-hmm. And the entryway, a lot of bright colors from the flowers, that interesting grass up against the red brick, the blue lime just stands out completely. So it certainly is inviting. And you were talking to me earlier, you have another very inviting element, which is your outdoor dining room. Tell me about that.
Well, my outdoor dining room is right off the kitchen, so that makes it convenient. But it also is very close to the street, and I'm on a corner. And so there's a lot of people that are out walking, kids and dogs all the time, and I can hear them talking when I'm out there, and I love that. And sometimes I'll hear, gosh, look at that arbor, or oh, I can smell them grilling. And before you know it, I'm having a conversation and they want to come in and see the sculpture that's there. I have a big chicken sculpture. And so I kind of love that. I feel private, but I also feel like I'm really part of the neighborhood. And that's really good for me.
Well, that connection to our neighbors is so important. Absolutely. So here we're walking through your outside living area.
Yes.
And again, we see that brickwork echoed in the patio area.
Yes.
You have a wonderful fountain. I imagine that this is just a wonderful place to relax and entertain in the evening.
You know, it is. I feel like many people do with their outdoor spaces. They want to be able to just flow from the outside and inside and back and forth. And mine is really good space for that. It's right off the living room. The brickwork is really interesting. I have a round chimney and it has circular brick around it. There's circular brick here and then in the dining area as well. So it's pretty cool that it's been replicated and is sort of part of the house.
It's a very nice connection there. And even some of the plant material, as I look around, I feel connection. We have these two beautiful lacebark elms with the orange bark kind of reflecting back the brick. So I look at your landscape, a lot of small rooms, and the last one on the side of the house, I'd like to go take a look at that.
Sure, that's one of my favorite spots as well.
I imagine this is your quiet place, somewhere you come for reflection.
It is. First thing in the morning, after I make my obligatory cup of coffee, I head out here. This is right off my bedroom. And, you know, this is where I sit, look at the calendar for the day, catch up on what's happening, read the texts from family members, and really just kind of get my act together for the day. I also practice guided meditation occasionally, and so I'll put my headphones on and come out here and listen to you know, a tape or something like that. But I love this space out here. It's small but powerful.
Very powerful. You're completely involved in nature. What a perfect place for meditation. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful landscape with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love it.
Visiting a tropical paradise here in Oklahoma with Bill Hawks. Bill, I just really appreciate your passion for plants and what you've done here in your landscape. Tell me a bit about what you're doing. What's your goal back here?
Well, you know, over the years I've just collected plants that I like, and the topography allows for different elevations, and I find that interesting. So I've put plants that are winter hardy, the yuccas and the agaves I take in, but I don't know, if I like it, I plant it and find a spot for it. That's pretty much it.
One of the biggest collections as we move through your landscape are the elephant ears, and your entryway is just a stunning display of, there's about 3 varieties there. Tell me about those.
Well, there's black coral, there's Mickey Mouse, there is, and I'm not certain of the name of the large leaf alocasia.
Right.
And lime zingers.
Lime zinger gives that chartreuse that just plays so nicely with the blacks.
Right.
The Mickey Mouse, that's one that I've not seen before, and it has some really interesting textures on the foliage.
And every leaf is unique.
So another unique plant you have in the landscape that I see repeated throughout are these globe catalpas.
Yes.
And let's go take a look. You have a bigger planting around the side.
Okay.
So Bill, these are globe catalpas, and I know you can buy these this way.
Yes.
It's a grafted tree, right?
Yes, this is the graft right here.
And we can buy them grafted, but you know, that's no fun, right?
Well, they're pretty easy to graft, and so I learned how to graft them a few years ago, and I love the plant, and thought that a lower graft would allow me to see more of the canopy, and so I just started playing with different heights of these umbrella catalpas, globe catalpas.
Right, yeah, they go by a few names. And so each, do you do much pruning on them to keep them compact?
You know, this is the way they grow, but I do trim them back a little bit every year. It's a brittle wood, and so if they get too long, they'll break, and then they don't have a good shape. Yeah. So I just lightly give them a haircut.
Okay. I think the large leaves and their kind of golden green color really plays nicely with the tropical look of the surrounding landscape.
Yes. You know, they mirror the leaf of the potato vine too. So.
Yes. Now, throughout the landscape, you have some beautiful sculptures as well, and kind of carry you around some of the open spaces. We're in the cross timbers, so there's a lot of, you know, open areas, but you've really just balanced that nicely with transitions of sculptural work, the rocks. I called it your Zen garden. And lead us to the most magnificent view in the garden, which is overlooking your water garden. Bill, you have a very dramatic pathway down to the pond. Some beautiful tropicals. At work, we call this the pudding plant.
Tapioca.
Yes, this is gorgeous. And of course, the feature here, your lily pond. Tell me a bit about this.
Well, it's been a work in progress. I built it 20 years ago, and have you know, I have tropicals in here and winter hardies, and take the tropicals into the greenhouse and bring them back out. And so these are plants that have done well for me, and I just keep repropagating them.
And looking around, there's got to be at least a dozen different varieties in here.
Yes.
And from all over the world, right?
There's some Amazon lilies, and most all of these are hybrids that have been recently produced.
New introductions to the market. A lot of times, you know, the lilies are adored for their just the beautiful flowers, but in here, I'm just really struck by the foliage on some of these varieties.
Yes, I'm as fascinated by the foliage as I am the blossoms.
And I see some of them shifting to red. Is that when they're
That's
the
as
individual leaves dying out?
That's starting to die, yes.
What a beautiful way to go.
Isn't it pretty? Yeah.
So you've been inspired by these plants after you've worked with them for a number of years.
A long time. I never get tired of them.
And you've actually, one of your other hobbies aside from managing an amazing water garden is in the arts and working with glass.
Casting glass, yes.
And so when did you first start to use your lilies in your artwork?
I've been doing that about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are just simply magnificent.
Thank you.
Amazing work. So certainly a treat for our visitors to come see not only this beautiful landscape, but get a glimpse of how that's inspired your work as well.
Thank you. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Today I'm going to do edamame hummus. Now a lot of you have probably made hummus or you've enjoyed hummus, and it's usually made with garbanzo beans or chickpeas. You can actually make it with any beans. So today I'm using edamame because it makes a beautiful green hummus, but you could make it with black beans or pinto beans, whatever kind of beans you have or you want to give a shot with. So you can get edamame in a couple of ways. Either you can grow it yourself and you start with this and then you pop the beans out, or you can buy it at the supermarket and you squeeze the beans out there too. If you're actually buying it at the supermarket, you're probably going to want to actually get it at this stage because it saves a lot of work and you get a little bit better idea of how much you need to buy. So these are actually from the market. They're available in the freezer section, and they're fairly inexpensive as well. So it's very straightforward, and again, if you wanted to switch out to another bean, you could easily do that. I'm going to start with 2 cups. And we're going to put them in a blender. If you have a food processor and not a blender, you could go that direction. One thing I do want to talk about when we're using a blender, though, is that this is one of those pieces of equipment that tends not to get cleaned, like can openers tend not to get cleaned, particularly electric ones. And so you can get a high microbial count. The place, of course, people will put this part in their dishwasher or they'll wash it by hand. The place that doesn't get clean is where it attaches. So when you are finished with a blender, make sure you take the whole thing apart and wash around the gasket and everything, let it dry. Otherwise, some of those microorganisms, which may or may not be friendly, can migrate back into the food the next time you're using it. So just a heads up on that. I'm going to use 1/4 cup of fresh lemon juice. Lime juice would work well too, particularly with this one. 1/4 cup of water. And then I've got 1 clove of garlic. However, my clove of garlic was gigantic, so this is actually only half of that clove of garlic. And since we're using the blender, you don't need to chunk it up and chop it and mince it all very finely, just get it in there. 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt and 3/4 of a teaspoon of cumin. Now we're going to go ahead and start blending, and our idea is not to get it completely blended at this point because we're eventually going to add some oil to it. What we want to do is just get it started, and when you're working with a blender you may have to turn it off and scrape it down and work from there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to start it on pulse and we'll work our way through it. Scrape it down a little bit. I can still see most of the garlic sitting on the top. Stir it around a little bit. You can see already that it's starting to pick up that beautiful green color. And as I said, just keep turning it on and off and working your way through. If you've got the food processor, it may go a little faster for you. Just take your time. Okay, notice that I haven't completely made it nice and smooth, and to be honest, the amount of smoothness that you end up with is totally your preference. If you like it a little bit chunkier, leave it that way. I'm now going to take it off pulse and I'm going to start adding the oil. Notice that I'm just going to pour the oil in through the hole on the top, and we're just going to pour it in slowly. Try not to let your blender go too long where you can hear that it's not actually catching the food because you're going to heat the motor up too much. I think this is about the way I would like it. I've got some already served up here. I'll pull some out here so you can see that it's about the same consistency. Nicely ground, but not completely to a pulp. I like mine with a little bit more texture to it. So again, it's up to you on how fine you want to do it. That was 1/2 cup of olive oil that I added to it. You could use canola oil, you could use extra virgin oil, you could use just a regular olive oil, depending on how strongly you want that flavor to pull out. But with the cumin and the garlic and the oil, you're going to be really happy with the flavor combination that you end up with. This is what you have here. Now I'm serving this one with, because it's such a beautiful color, I'm using colored peppers as the outring around that. It also gives you a lot more nutrition because we've got the fat that's coming in here. We've got a lot of protein, but we've also got a lot of fat. Serving it on something that's going to be really low fat and high nutrition is going to balance out that dish for you so that you end up with something that's very healthy and very nutritious. I think kids would like this in their school lunch. You might want to consider taking it in your lunch, or if you've got any parties coming up, it's a good place for it too. Also, every day is a good time for it. I hope you'll try it. It's Edamame Hummus for Oklahoma Gardening. I'm Barbara Brown.
Here are some of the upcoming gardening activities around the state.
Next week, we have a special episode planned. There will be gardening tips for October, and we will be visiting with the 3 winners that you voted for in our online Viewers Garden Contest. There were so many wonderful gardens submitted, but we think you will especially enjoy these 3 gardens and their gardeners in Chickasha, Arcadia, and Tulsa. So join us then for more TV You'll Grow to Love. For additional information, show notes, plant lists, recipes, and fact sheets, visit our website or contact your local Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service office. Segments from this episode, along with hundreds more from previous episodes, are available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Oklahoma Gardening. Be sure to join our Facebook group for information on upcoming episodes and gardening events, photos, and discussions of gardening topics. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens. This outdoor television studio is made possible with the help of our generous underwriters, TLC Garden Centers, Southwood Landscape and Nursery, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.